Okay, for those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Forrest, and welcome to It's Go Time. Now, before we get going, I'm going to ask if you guys don't send me any messages, text messages during the event. I'd really appreciate that because when you're moving around up here and all of a sudden somebody sends you a text, it's like hitting the wall. It can really throw you off. So, if you have anything like that, please save it to the end of the event, and I would appreciate that. Also, if you guys can stay off of this raised up stage area, this way nobody blocks this big display behind me, and it gives me a little bit of room to move around, do the whole hosting thing, right? Also, you may notice in your lower left there, you have that microphone icon. It looks kind of like this right up here. And, you'll notice when that's clear, that means everyone can hear what's happening in your environment. So if, somebody comes and, return it to red this way that you're muted. And this way, if somebody comes in your space and says, hey, are you still on that thing? You feel free to answer them because we're not going to hear that. Right. Likewise, if you have a barking dog or something, right, you're not going to face social ruin back at the campfire by becoming known as the avatar that suddenly started barking during its go time. Right. Now, just because you're muted does not mean you can't express yourself, as Ben is demonstrating so well here. What you're going to notice is on your menu wheel, you have a pink cheek smiley face. And when you press on this, your emoji panel is going to open up in the air in front of you. And when it does, you have a wide variety of options with which to express yourself. So if I share something while I'm up here, something deep, something powerful, and it touches you and it starts to build up, you can just let it out, just let it flow just like that, right? Maybe I got some backup dancers backstage, right? And they come out and we break into It's Go Time the musical and you're very impressed. You can throw up the applause I live for, and I can take a moment to drink it all in because it feels good, right? I can ask you guys a yes or no question. You could say yes by smiling like this. You can say no by frowning like that. And maybe I say something funny and makes you laugh. You can show me that you're laughing with the silly face emoji just like that. And then there's this thing. This is by far the most distracting of all the emojis, right? And now you don't do this to ask a question. We will be taking questions and comments at the end of the event, but you're going to use this to let me know something's wrong. Like maybe my voice has gone choppy, or maybe the moderators have seen this event one too many times and they set the display on fire. Don't laugh. That's happened before. And I'm relying on you guys to let me know that kind of thing. Now, if I see just one of these go up, I'm probably just going to keep on going because it might be somebody messing around. But if I see, all four of you doing that, I know there's a problem that I'm going to need to address, right? So, keep that in mind, right? Now, also, you'll notice there's an X in the middle of this emoji panel. And when you press on that X, that panel will disappear. But it's a good idea to leave it open during events like this because, it gives me feedback. It lets me know, how I'm doing. But more importantly, it lets the people around you know what you're experiencing. So if the person next to you starts going like this, that means they found something funny, right? And you may not agree. You might be like, that's not funny at all. I'm going to go stand over here. And you can totally do that because this is VR, except right here on the stage, because as we agreed, part of our sacred bond, people, part of our agreement is that nobody would be standing up here but me. All right. So now let's jump into it here. Let's see. Now, Go Time is an event for Oculus Go users, but all are welcome. So if you're on another device, please feel free to hang out. You may pick up some useful information that helps the still growing Go community in Altspace. There's still a lot of Go users coming in every day. And what we like to do here is we like to give the Go users some tips on how they can have a better experience in Altspace. Because listen, when I first started out in Altspace on an Oculus Go, I've been in bed for about a year, 2 years, something like that, due to a medical condition. And when my device was, when I was waiting for it to arrive, I was super excited, right? And I'd been reading about Altspace, and I couldn't wait to get in here. So this was my first stop. And when I came out of that load screen for the very first time, the very first thing I did was I looked up. Right. And I looked at the sky, and that sky looked a lot like what I remembered it. Not now, because we got these beams in here, but, where you first come in, it was big open sky. And it looked, very real to me. And I was very grateful for this. I was so grateful. I started volunteering for Altspace right away. I started moderating for events, and I found that I couldn't make it through an entire event because my battery would run out of power. It would run out of power every time I, would come into Altspace there. And, I'd have to go and charge up the device, and I'd have to track down the event host and see if I could find them, and explain why I flaked out. So I got off to kind of a rocky start in here. But I started asking questions about how could I improve the performance of my device. And the answers I got to those questions eventually led to this event so I could share the information that I learned. But in the beginning, I'd heard some things. Like I heard that on an Oculus Go, I wouldn't be able to work this laser pointer here. And you know what? That turned out to not be true. I was also told that these slides that I have behind me right here, right? I was told that I wouldn't be able to operate these slides on an Oculus Go. And you know what? That also turned out to not be true. And I was told that despite having a background presenting material like this in the real world, I was told that my device wasn't reliable enough for me to host events. Not only did that turn out to not be true, but I went on to host over 350 events in Altspace, and more than half of them were performed on an Oculus Go. I like to think I did a good job, and you can too. The only difference being is that some of the issues that there are on the Go are, we got to remember something, that these problems that they have are solvable, and the ones that aren't are manageable. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do that today. There's two paths you can take. You start with the device you already have on your head. So before you even leave here today, you have useful information on how you can have a better experience in Altspace. But you can also take another route by upgrading your experience to exceed the limitations of your device. And I say it like this because, listen, you'll see, especially in the Discord, you see people referring to Oculus Go's as weaker devices. They'll say inferior device, and it never feels good hearing that when you spend your hard-earned money on a device, and you hear stuff like that. It doesn't make you feel good, right? Remember, there's another word that gets thrown around Altspace a lot, and that's communities. There's a lot of rich and diverse communities represented in Altspace, and you have to remember, it's you that makes up that community, not what kind of headset you're wearing. You're not your headset any more than your house or your car. I feel about the Oculus Go the way most people feel about their first car, right? I'm getting a message saying that my voice is choppy, so I'm going to re-enter the space here because I'm told that it happened during events lately, and I'm going to just re-enter and see if that helps because it's been known to. So let me just re-enter the space here. All right, everybody. What's going on? What's this event about? This is that one with Michael Forrest. I've heard good things about him. All right, yeah, that's obviously me, so I'm going to jump back up here. But yeah, I'm doing that bit a lot lately. I like that. Yeah, but they have it so that you got to just re-enter the space about, midway through events lately because your voice gets choppy. And, unfortunately, it's part of it. I'm told they're working on it, though. So that'll be cool when they clean that up. Although I'm going to miss doing that bit. You walk in like you don't know what's happening. Hey, Lano, how's it going? I see you waving there. We were taking questions and comments at the end, but if you're just saying hi, then hi back. All right. So yeah, you're the important part of that equation, not what kind of headset you're wearing. And it's important to remember that if you ever hear those terms going around, the getting started on an Oculus Go was really the best option for me. If I had started, I'm on a Quest now, but if I had started on the Quest, I don't think I would have stayed. All right. Because on a Go, you can get used to things gradually. All right. You don't have to worry about the up and down motion like you do on a Quest. You don't have to worry about the complexity of two controllers. You only have to focus on the one, and you can gradually get used to it while you develop your VR legs there. All right. Now let's start out with the device you already have on your head. Right. Now you may not realize this, but your device loses power even when it's not in use. Right. So if at nighttime, you put your headset down that has 100% power, by morning it's going to have less of a charge because all night it's been looking for app updates. It's been looking for firmware updates. It's been working while you've been sleeping. And, maybe it has a pen pal on the other side of the world, right? Maybe your headset has a whole secret life you don't know anything about, and that could be devastating to find out, something like that. So it's important to remember you got to manage this from an advanced position, because if you come into Altspace and you have only a 20% battery charge, you're going to notice that your screen flickers around and stuff like that. It's not going to perform as well. So to increase the performance, you want to start with an advanced position by going, like, say you go to altvr.com and you look at the event calendar and you see, oh, look, Go Time's coming on tonight. I've heard great things about the host. I've heard he's very dynamic. He's got this hair and he's got this jacket that he's starting to see everywhere, right? Going to want to check that out. So what you're going to want to do is about an hour before the event starts, what you're going to want to do is plug in your device and make sure that when you come in, you have 100% charge. Now, once you get the headset on your head and you first see that home screen, the Oculus home screen, what I want you to do, and make this a habit, is you're going to notice when you first turn it on, in the middle center, there's your power button that you press to turn it on, right? Well, this button does something else too, right? If you press and hold that button for about 4 seconds, you're going to see 3 buttons appear in the air in front of you, and that middle button will say restart. Now, when you press restart, it's going to clear out your headset from all the temporary files. This way, I like to think of it as clearing your mind before you come in, right? And then when you come into Altspace and you step out of that load screen, you guys may have noticed what an important role body language plays in here, right? You could say so much without saying anything at all. Like if you come into an event like this, one of the moderator comes up to you and they're shaking their head like that back and forth, right? That means don't do that thing. Or let's say maybe somebody makes it on the stage. It actually happened earlier today. And if let's say I go like this with my hand, that means get off my stage. I don't have to say a word for that, right? But occasionally in Altspace, you're going to notice that your real world hand might be here, but your avatar's hand might be way up here. And when that happens, when you go to wave somebody off the stage like that, all you guys are going to see is my hand going back and forth like this. And it's going to look like I'm saying, hey, everybody, welcome to Go Time. And you know what? I'm not saying that. I'm saying get off my stage, right? It's very dangerous up here. I'm a trained professional. You don't want to get hurt up here, right? But listen, if this happens to you, it's easy to fix, right? What you're going to want to do is on your controller, you have 2 buttons below your trackpad. That bottommost button, don't press it now because if you disappear, I'm going to feel it. You got to think of that like an eject button, right? If you press that one time, you get taken out of Altspace and you have an option to quit or resume. If you press quit, it's going to close the app. If you press resume, right, it's going to bring you right back into Altspace like you never left, right? But this button does something else too. If you hold your hand out at your side and you press and hold that bottom button for about 3 or 4 seconds, what's going to happen, and you look straight ahead when you do this, what's going to happen is a white circle is going to spin in the air in front of you, and then your hand is going to snap right into place. And when it does, take a good look at your hand and ask yourself, is this where my hand is in the real world right now? If it's not, right, do this process again as many times as it takes to feel comfortable. Only you can determine what feels comfortable for you. But if it feels about right and you're like, yeah, that's where my hand is, then you're good to go. All right. And that'll take care of that if your hand doesn't match up. Now, occasionally in Altspace, you're going to notice that collection of circles in your lower left, your main menu wheel there, occasionally that's going to move around. Right. Sometimes it's going to go in front of you and make you feel unbalanced. Sometimes it's going to drift behind you. Right. And you're not going to be able to see it all. And somebody will be like, open your main menu. And you're like, where is this thing? I don't see it. Where did it go? It's gone. I don't have a main menu, right? When that happens, we're going to remember that your main menu on an Oculus Go is in your hand at all times, right? On your controller, you have your trackpad, then you have that middle button, then you have that bottom button. That middle button is actually your main menu. And now when you press it, your main menu is going to open up in front of you, right? But if you're looking straight ahead when you do this and you press it again, that menu will close. And when that menu closes, you're going to look down and see that your menu wheel is back where it belongs. So if you lose your menu wheel, that's a great way to get it back. Just look straight ahead and open up that, main menu by pressing the button on your controller, right? As a matter of fact, you don't have to use that blue and white triangle button at all if you don't want to. All right, you have the option as an Oculus Go user. All right, now also occasionally, all right, well, listen, when I first started losing power, and I started having those battery issues when I first started out in Altspace, one of the best pieces of advice I got in the beginning, the most useful piece of advice was somebody told me to turn down my brightness to make my battery last longer, and I did not want to do it. I wanted to have the best graphic experience I could possibly have in Altspace, and to me, that meant having my brightness turned way up to like retina burning levels. I mean, it was painful. My graphics were awesome, or so I thought. What I ended up doing was I figured I was desperate to get more power, so I gave this a try. At the Oculus main menu, when you first turn the device on the lower right side, a settings button or settings tab. And when you press on this tab, right in the middle there's an area where you can adjust the brightness. Now I turned auto brightness off, and that left me with this big blue bar where I control the brightness. And I would turn it down a little bit more every time I came into Altspace. I turned it down a little bit more and a little bit more until finally there came a day where the brightness was completely off. There was no more blue on that bar, and I came into Altspace and I couldn't believe what I saw. I went to an event, and back then I was helping to moderate out at this event, and all the moderators would gather by this tree over there, and catch up on things before the event started, right? And I'm walking over there, and I saw this tree, and I just stopped, and I looked up, and I was like, wow, it looked more realistic than anything I'd ever seen before, in Altspace or outside of VR. It looks so real. And so turning the brightness all the way down is going to give you better graphics. Your device is going to perform better, and most importantly, your battery is going to last longer. And around that, I started making it through entire events, right? And you can too, right? Just, you turn down that brightness and your battery is going to last longer. It's absolutely worth doing. If you're making a big jump from like 75 brightness down to like 0, it may take you a few minutes to get used to it, but it's absolutely worth doing. All right. Now, around this time, I started to find out that Go users had not the best reputation in Altspace. All right. And the reason for this is because it turns out that the microphone on the Oculus Go is extremely sensitive, right? It's very powerful. And as the sound comes out of your straps, it gets picked up by the microphone and projected out into Altspace. Now, the problem is we don't know what our avatars sound like in Altspace. I was presenting events for a year in Altspace before I knew what I sounded like. You'll notice that we've got Raven and I floating in the air above you all. That's actually a YouTube camera, and that was actually the first time I got a chance to hear what I sounded like in Altspace, all right? So what can happen is, if you want to feel Altspace famous, turn around and wave at the camera, be like, hey, YouTube, how's it going? We got a lot of people in here. We're going to come on in the, Altspace, come check out Go Time. You have a good time. All right. We got Morgan Forrest here helping us out. She's waving now. She's Altspace famous. You can be too. We got Steven here. We got Raleigh Fur. We got Ian, Ryan. We got Hummingbird up in here. All right. So, that's basically, how I first figured out what I sounded like in Altspace. Now, the reason this happens is, again, the microphone is very powerful. There's also a sound delay. So if you're standing in the campfire and I'm talking to Ian here and, all of a sudden I hear the sound, of somebody approaching, right? and it's actually my voice coming out of somebody else's avatar, right? And that can be really off-putting when that happens. So a lot of times you'll see people turn around and they'll come at you and they'll go, "Are you on a go? Are you on a go?" That doesn't feel awesome when that happens, all right? But unfortunately, it's very easy to manage this if this happens to you. All right, you're going to notice on the top of your headset you have those two buttons on the left side there. The leftmost button is the volume down button, right? And just to the right of that's the volume up button. And when you press either of these, you have these vertical bars appear in the air in front of you. Now, some will be solid and some will be clear, right? What you're going for is 4 clear bars on the right-hand side. All right, when the volume's set to that level, the microphone won't pick up the sound as easily, and at that point, the only sound coming out of your avatar will be your own. If somebody's really loud in the environment, it can create a little bit of an echo, but it's much easier to talk to you that way. You're going to find people are nicer to you pretty much right away. One thing you can do to help solve this problem, once and for all, is to attach a pair of headphones to your device or a pair of inexpensive earbuds. That's the route that I took. And once I did, the only sound coming out was my own. Occasionally, you'll still hear like a family member come in and say, "Hey, are you still on that thing?" And the way they solve that is get them their own headset. This way they can come into VR too. And when you know somebody that you know in the real world in VR, you actually recognize their body language. It's a pretty cool experience. I can't recommend doing that enough. But once I did this, I started asking, to myself, I was like, what else can I add to the device to make a better experience out of it, right? So what I ended up doing was I came up with what I call a Go Plus experience. And I call it this because I would go into spaces and worlds in Altspace that were very performance heavy. And I would see my fellow Go users disappear as their devices crashed, but I would remain. My device became super reliable. And yours can too. You just have to make a few small, inexpensive changes. But in order to talk about how I did that, I'm going to have to discuss these products behind me, right? And these products, I like to say, are not the only products that work. It's the ideas behind these products that matter, all right? And if you don't, and listen, I know the temptation is going to be to write them down. You don't need to do that, all right? We've try to make it easy to get this information. If you go to altvr.com, and you'll find there's a link in the upper left called channels. And when you press it, all these Altspace event channels will appear. And down toward the bottom, I'm told that doesn't mean anything to be down there, but down toward the bottom, you're going to see Ravenhall events, like it says up in the sound booth there. And when you click on this, you get taken to our event page. Now, on that event page, you're going to see on the left-hand side all of these products listed out if you'd like to try any of them. Also, down toward the bottom, you'll have a Join Discord button. If you'd like to say hello, or if you have some questions, or you want to help us put on events like this, you can find us there. Also, in the upper right, there's a subscribe button, the most important button on the internet. And when you press it, it lets Altspace know that you enjoy our content, all right? And we don't get paid to do this, so every time we see that number go up, it feels good. Almost as good as when we see our YouTube channel go up. That feels amazing when that happens, all right? So you can find all that information there. Now, what these products do is at the very top here, you have the Anker Power Core battery pack. Now, this device I figured would solve my power issues because Oculus says not to use the devices while they're plugged in, but we can use external batteries. So I figured this would be a great place to start. But when I ordered it, I'd heard a lot of people were having problems charging their device. And I think the reason for this is when you plug in your Go, have you ever noticed how tight that port is? Over time, if you're coming in and out of Altspace every day and you're constantly pulling this wire in and out, eventually the contacts are going to loosen and it's not going to charge as effectively. What I found as a solution to this is this middle product here called a MagSafe cable. And one end plugs into the battery pack, one of the tips plugs into your headset, and it stays there. So there won't be any more wear and tear on that port. And it's held in place by a magnetic connector, right? And it turns out that this is a great safety feature too, because what happens is if you're in VR and you turn your head and it pulls on that wire, it'll just pop off. Like it's not going to pull your headset down and turn your world upside down. It's just going to pop right off. You don't even have to come out of VR to fix it. You can just hold up the wire to the side of your headset and it'll kind of snap into place. If your microphone's open, people around you are going to hear this like thunk sound. And they're going to be like, "What was that?" And you're going to be like, "That's pure power. That's what that was. Pure power." You don't have to do that. It's not going to make it work any differently. It's just something I like to do. Also, around this time, this solved my power issue. But I found when I was coming into Altspace, I found I was overheating like all the time, right? I don't know if you guys have had this issue before where you overheat a lot. I'm seeing nods, I'm seeing smiles, so yeah, this is very common. And the way you solve this, listen, I've heard people say they put ice packs on their headsets or bags of frozen peas. Don't do this, all right? Because this can create condensation inside your headset. And let's see, electricity and water on your face, probably not a good idea. In addition to that, people I know who have done this, they actually went through more than one headset, all right? So it can actually damage your device. The solution that actually will, be safe for your device and solve your problem where you'll never overheat again is to use this bottom product here. This is by a company called AC Infinity, and it's a USB mini fan. It's real small. It fits in the palm of your hand, and the other end, plugs into that battery pack there, and you put it on your headset so that the silver part is facing the faceplate. Now, that faceplate is supposed to cool the device, but it's installed by hand. So some people experience different things. Like some lucky few never overheat at all when it works as intended. But a lot of people, they'll overheat every half hour. I knew a guy that overheated every 2 minutes, and he kept coming in to the events. And eventually he told me that the side of his headset was actually melted. It actually got pushed in. It made me super nervous, and I knew this is something we had to address. The fan, it actually solves the problem. You just have to figure out a way to attach it to the device. Some people use string. I used elastic hairbands, and I put them like on the ear straps and made kind of an X with it and wrapped it around those round rubber feet. And then the first time I came into Altspace to test it, I was supposed to moderate for the meditation event. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but it's a great space. It's on top of a mountain. You've got these bowls with like smoke coming out. You've got like sunlight coming down through the fog. It's an amazing space. But for some reason, I always overheat it 20 minutes into that experience. So I figured it was a great place to test it, right? So the first time I came into Altspace with this on, I felt like, have you ever seen Star Trek, the Borg? I felt like I was one of those, I had all the wires hanging down like that, right? And you get used to that. But I came in and I went up to the host, Jeremy, really nice guy. And I asked him, I said, can you hear my fan? And he says, no, not at all. So I figured, all right, well, let me see, how far I can go. And I turned the speed up to medium. And, I said, how about now? And he says, well, I can hear it a little, but it's not that bad. So then I turned it up as high as it would go. And before I could even ask, he goes, you sound like you're in a wind tunnel. You're going to want to turn that down. I can't concentrate on my event. I'm like, okay. So what I did was I turned it down to the lowest setting. And spoiler, I never had to turn it up again. Here's what happened, right? 20 minutes came and 20 minutes went, and I didn't overheat one time, right? And then I wanted to see what the line would be, so after the event finished, I wanted to see how far I could go with this thing. So I went to another event. I didn't overheat at all. And then I went to another event. That's 3 events in a row, and I didn't overheat once. And after that, I went back to my home space to hang out with my friends and stuff, and I'm hanging out there, and then it happened for the very first time. I left Altspace not because I had to. I didn't leave Altspace because, I'd run out of power. I didn't leave Altspace because I'd overheat it. I left Altspace by choice, and it was the first time that ever happened. All right. And, and after that, my device became super reliable. I started hosting events. I started moderating events. I was everywhere. And you can be too. All right. None of this stuff is very expensive. It's just a few small changes, and it's going to make your device super reliable. All right. This is a product on the bottom, the fan itself. That's only about $10 or $11 US. The MagSafe cable is only about $7 US. And the most expensive thing up here is the battery pack at the top. That's about $30 US. But you can get smaller size batteries, packs where, there's, they even come in different colors, right? So if you're only going to be in VR for a few hours a night, you could probably get by with a smaller one. This one lasts about 16 hours, and that's about $30 US. So, but again, they have less expensive ones available. All right, so once I did this, right, most of my problems on the go were solved. There were still some minor annoyances, all right, and that you're going to occasionally deal with on the go. And these things could be managed, if not solved altogether. The first one, I'm going to talk about some movement issue. Like, let's say I'm in the campfire and I go to turn left to say something to Steve, but instead of turning left, I go straight. And I'm like, well, that was weird, right? And then I go to say something to Raleigh for on my right, and instead of turning right, I go straight again. I'm like, I did not mean to do that. So I press down on my controller to back up, but I go straight again. And then I start mashing buttons, and no matter what I do, I keep going straight. It's very frustrating. And the next thing you know, I'm standing inside of an admin. All right? There is nothing more frightening than standing inside of an admin. When I was in there, I saw things. I saw the past. I saw the future. I saw things about user accounting. I saw things that keep me up at night. I can't really talk about it. What I can talk about is how to fix this if it happens to you. What you want to do is on your trackpad, that touchpad there, it's very sensitive to, touch, to moisture, to heat, right? And you're going to want to reset the connection. And the way to do this is if you take your thumb and without pressing down, very gently glide your thumb across from right to left or left to right. The direction doesn't matter. And when you get to the other side, lift your thumb up off the trackpad and cross it over to the other side. And when you come down, gently swipe it across the trackpad again. If you do this 2 or 3 times, what you're going to find is that you can you've reset the connection, and then you'll be able to come down and move your controller in the direction that you want to go, and you'll move in that direction. This will take care of that. So if I go to turn left, but instead of turning left, I go straight, on reflex, I'm going to go swipe, swipe, swipe on the trackpad, and then I'll be able to turn in a direction that I want to go. All right, so if that happens to you, that'll help with that. Now, another thing that can happen in Altspace is you're going to notice every once in a while your screen's going to go dark, right? And the reason for this, and this isn't just true of Oculus Go, this is true of really any mobile device, because what happens is, you see, everything in this space that you're here today, all this stuff takes up, memory. And the stage here, these posters on the wall, all your fellow avatars, this shiny red button that we have on the wall over here that we use at the end of our events. It's a cool effect. You might want to stick around and see that. But what happens is all this stuff is going to take up memory. Now, if you've been world hopping, you just went to 3 worlds, and somebody says, hey, you want to go to the campfire? What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get ahead of this before it happens. This way your screen doesn't go dark in the middle of a conversation. The way you do this is you go to, if you press that bottom eject button on your controller, right, and then press quit, right? And then you can just restart the app, and then it'll clear out the memory manually. All right. So if you've just been out exploring worlds and somebody's, let's go to that campfire, you should know that that your memory is probably getting full. So you're going to want to manually clear it out by pressing that bottom eject button, pressing quit, and then coming back in, and it'll make it fresh. And this way, this will happen to you a lot less. All right. Fortunately, Altspace has made a lot of improvements to performance, so this does happen less than it used to. But it is still something to be aware of if you find this frustrating. All right. Now, occasionally you're going to notice when you put your headset on, you may get a message that says "can't find controller." All right. Now, when that happens, there's a variety of reasons it could happen. Like let's say that you need to change the battery in your controller, right? But you put a fresh battery in there last night, right? Well, maybe the controller found out about your headset's secret life and isn't happy about it, and they're no longer speaking. So what do? You don't have to even take your headset off to solve this problem. You only have to remember 2 words: double down. You're going to notice on your trackpad you have these 2 buttons on the bottom, right? If you press and hold them at the same time for about 4 seconds, what's going to happen is a little white light's going to appear on your trackpad, right? Now, if you're wearing your headset, you're not going to see this white light. But what you will see is when you lift your thumbs up off the button, you've got your hand back. And you step into that load screen and you'd be like, man, I sure am glad I went to go time. That Michael Forrest, he knew what he was talking about. He told me to double down, and now I got to be on time for my event. So if that happens to you, you're welcome. All right. But yeah, that'll take care of that. Now, about this time, I usually go over some building tips, but I'm running a little bit short on time. If anybody would like to hear those building tips, show me some hearts. All right. Otherwise, we'll just go right into the question in the comment section. All right. Got one. Somebody else disappeared. All right, cool. We'll go through it quickly. All right, now let's see. I lost my pointer. Where'd my pointer go? Just gone. What? We need this thing. Okay, I'll probably lost it when I re-entered the space. All right, that would happen. All right, but yeah. So I used to moderate for an event called Building Worlds. Now, when I was moderating for this event, I would often hear that people would say that they couldn't build worlds on an Oculus Go, and it's not true. These devices are capable of remarkable precision. All right. Now, let's say that where do people get this impression from? Well, the reason people get this impression is because when you go into the world editor, like let's say you have building worlds enabled in your main menu under settings, under general, and you have that enabled there, and you go into your space, your home space to build a world for the first time, and as soon as you do that, you grab an object in the space and you go to edit it, right? So when you grab onto it, you're going to notice the object is moving all over the place, right? And it takes a while to realize that it's actually your head that's controlling the movement. Now, I don't know about you guys, but it's very difficult to keep a level head in any reality, let alone a virtual one, right? So what you can do is if you go into the world editor, you're going to notice there's a checkbox, a white checkbox down toward the bottom. And this white checkbox, it says lock rotation. Now, when you click on this, it's going to change your building world, your building life forever, right? Once you press on this, as soon as you go to interact with an object, as soon as you squeeze and release the trigger one time, what's going to happen is you can now move that object up, down. You can move it around there and get it nice and level, and then you squeeze and release that trigger one more time and it'll lock it into place, right? And then you take a look at the object and you're like, that's pretty level, and it makes a great mustache in this case, right? I think I'm doing that right. But yeah, now also you can squeeze and hold that trigger and don't let go, and now you'll be able to move that object up, down, left, and right. Okay. You can also swipe your thumb on the trackpad, left or right, and that'll change the size or the scale of the object. You can also swipe the object up or down or forward and back, and it'll move the object away from you or it'll pull it closer to you, right? So what you can then do, right, is you can also squeeze and hold that trigger, and now you can actually carry the object and manually place it somewhere. So let's say we want to put this laser pointer on the edge of the stage here, right, just like that there, right? Now, listen, if this was the real world, that laser pointer would be on the floor right now. So that's not very good placement, right? But on an Oculus Go, you don't have to get it perfect. You just have to get it close enough. Now, once it's close enough, what you're going to find is you can open up the world editor and look for the item on the list, in this case, laser pointer. And next to the word laser pointer will be a cogwheel. And if you press the cogwheel, it's going to open up this panel with all these numbers on it. There'll be numbers for position. There'll be numbers for rotation. There'll be numbers for the scale or the size. And what you're going to want to do is change these numbers in small increments to see what happens. So let's say that the X value is 20, right? And you change it to 19. Right. What'll happen as soon as I press enter, the laser pointer will move over to here. Right. And now I know anytime I lower that number, right, it's going to move toward that window. Right. That must mean if I raise the number, it's going to move toward this wall over here, toward the posters. That means if I change the letter on the Z axis, it's going to move it toward the snack bar in the back. It's going to move it toward the display here. And Y is always going to be up and down. Right. And so after you place that object like that, then you place another one. Then you place another one. And before you know it, you're going to have a world of your very own to hang out with your friends or to host events in. It can be very rewarding. There's a lot of great, wonderful worlds that have been built in Altspace on an Oculus Go, and you can do it too. All right. As a matter of fact, when this event is over, we take you guys flying, and we take you to a place called the Ravenhall Flight Academy. Now, when you're there, remember that world was built in less than 2 days on an Oculus Go, and it'll give you some idea of what you're capable of. There's also another world there called Lake Ravenhall, beautiful space. That took a little bit longer than 2 days because that world is huge, but it's very detailed, and it really will give you an idea of what you can do. Now, I know putting in those numbers, that can be a little painstaking and a little slow. You guys know from messaging your friends in Altspace, typing those messages out can take a little while. But you have to remember something. It's like when you first get a video game and you're thinking about the controls, right? But after a week of playing it, you're not thinking about the controls anymore. You're thinking about how you're going to save the world, right? You're thinking about, how you can crush your enemies. That's a great way to spend a Wednesday. All right, now what we're going to do now is we're going to be taking your questions or your comments. So if you have any, you're going to notice a raise hand button appear on your lower right. All right, as if by magic. That's what magic looks like in Altspace VR. And if you press that raise hand button, I'll get you on the list there, and I'll take your questions or your comments if you have any. While we wait for that list to fill up, if you're on Twitter, you can find us at _ Uncanny Valley. I know that looks like one underscore, but it is actually two. All right, let's see. I'm not seeing anybody on the list here, so what I'm going to do, if you have any questions, we will take them at the Flight Academy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over against the wall here, and I'm going to press this red button. Now, when I press this button, look out the window, and you're going to see a Ravenhall Town hovercraft fly by. Now, you guys can fly these ships if you like by coming with us to the Flight Academy. We'll teach you how to fly. And if you have any questions, we could take them there. I'm going to go ahead and press this button. I'm going to unmute everybody in case, there we go, in case you guys want to talk about that. Here we go. I'm going to press that button now.
Ravenhall Talon aircraft en route to your position.
There it goes. Look at it go. All right. Now, that's going to fly up over those trees and land out back. So let's go head out and meet it there. And if you've learned anything here today, please pass on that information. So if somebody's standing around and they're saying they're overheating all the time, tell them about the fan, tell them about our event, tell them about our event page and where they can find it. And this way you'll help somebody, and you'll feel better for doing it, and they'll feel better having their problem solved. That's how we help keep this thing going. All right, here it comes, everybody.
Talon aircraft is now boarding outside for transport to the Ravenhall Flight Academy. Please exit the building and step into the blue light. Thank you.
All right, everybody, step in that blue light. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you next time.